we want to talk about AI, we don't want to talk about AI, because it is real now. It is here now. We can't avoid that conversation.
I feel they have appetite. Everybody has appetite nowadays to talk about AI and utilize AI, but also scared of the risks involved.
I think it comes down to just really kind of educating them or re-educating the market, right? Overall.
I think for HCPs, finally, this is like a boon, right? They're already burnt out.
I'm not.
That's true.
Go to HCPs. How are they changing? How are their expectations changing in this era, the AI era?
Yeah, I think for HCPs, finally, this is like a boon, right? They're already burnt out. And
I'm not.
that's true. You're not.
You were HCP long
You're
ago.
right.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I need a diagnosis later.
So for them, they're like, give me the right kind of information in real time so that I can just quickly digest it and ultimately focus on the patient and their treatment outcomes, right?
Timing has become more efficient and physicians' learning path has changed. Now they don't want to wait that long. Like a sales rep would come and I'll ask question. I probably would not even remember those questions.
That's right. And it is. And if I think beyond, it was actually beyond ChatGPT. It was superior version of ChatGPT, which could not just answer my questions, but it could get me a sample. It could get me passed to a conference, right? It could do a lot of things so that I can further my practice better, right?
But
how do you think AI is helping?
You built a trust with that sales rep as well, right? That was the reason you called them. You would only call the ones you knew would give you the accurate information.
But now, when I meet physicians, they can't access reps.
That's
Well,
right.
you couldn't, like you mentioned, but you couldn't have 20 reps sitting in the waiting room, right? So you didn't prescribe one drug at one time. So that's where
Go to a physician office, you'll see 20 reps sitting outside.
yeah. But nobody inside.
Nobody inside,
Somebody
correct?
inside.
Will you have 20 chat GPTs? No, right?
Yeah,
you will
one,
only
right?
have one and you will ask all questions to the same chat GPT.
So this year, I actually really see how that agentic AI will start helping physicians get that rep back, which they have lost, right, through the COVID. And that real rep is not coming back, but helping in building that bridge with a rep that can connect them to a real world when they need it, right? At least few times. Otherwise, most of the queries can be answered by the AI.
Yeah, the rep
in
is-
real time when they need it.
The rep is still valuable. It's just time is more valuable now. So if you're seeing far more patients and you have a lot less time and still paperwork is a huge burden, you need something to help, right? Not really replace, but to more help.
And costs have increased as well now. Right?
Also, the one other thing, Tom, is I now have 20 choices of an indication, so which one do I prescribe? So you've got that compounding as well, right? Because each patient is unique. So does this work for this patient versus this patient? And I need to make this decision fairly quickly. So all of those things are now burning inside my head as I'm seeing a patient on a daily basis.
On top of what therapies they've had in the past, what insurance they're covered.
Exactly.
If you write it, will it actually be filled? You know, there's one thing to just know what to do and do it, but then there's a lot behind that.
All
And
that
so
decision process you have to go through.
And I think additional to that, Dr. Google has given so much knowledge to the patient itself
exactly.
that patient would come and say, do I want this? Can you
Or
prescribe
the other
me
one
that?
is, I want this.
Yeah,
because
give me
Dr.
that.
Google says, right?
And especially thinking about pharma, because they are like so protective of the content. What can you say? What can you not say? How do you say it? How do you pronounce it? Even like they want to even control at that level. And when such technology is used, they can actually control it, because with a sales rep, they were not able to control it. If I look outside of the pharma marketing, right, general consumer marketing, right, and we're doing this as Doceree, right, is we have completely AI-driven workflows in which we do marketing, create tailored content for each marketer that we are creating, send that person a LinkedIn message or an email, and when they get back to us, an AI agent calls them. They may not even know that, right? We say, hi, I'm Tom, thinking this guy is there on the call, but he's not, right? But he's not. So that agent is talking and answering the queries, right? It's happening in real. Those reps have been trained by us, right? We trust them. Now, this is exactly how a pharmaceutical marketer also wants to do.
I mean, you think about the impact even from a patient standpoint to get consistent information. How many times have you gone to different physicians and be like, I heard this thing about this exact same drug, like you're telling me something different. Imagine if there's just kind of consistency and continuity in what you're hearing of what's supposed to be out there without some rogue messaging. That's a huge benefit.
And I think that is the reason why there was a second opinion concept that originated, where patient would take a second opinion if they don't trust it.
Yeah.
The trust is the key word there, because you don't want to believe what if one physician said.
Yeah.
It's not the louder brands that will be recognized. It's the smarter brands that will be recognized, right? Brands who are there when the consumer needs them, when the physician needs them, right? The smarter ones, they will be known for, they will be remembered. So yeah, I do see maybe some change happening this year, right? Some adoption happening this year, right? When we think about agentic AI in the pharma reps, I see massive adoption already started in the healthcare era, in the healthcare delivery side, right? When we talk about appointment taking, answering queries of patients, running educational sessions, having calls for compliance, follow-ups, refills, all are being done by agents right now. Right?
Yeah, there is a school of thought that the bulk of the work that a GP does will be replaced pretty soon by agents that can do that for you. The reminders to take your medication, the refills.
But
all
I
of
say a
those
little
things,
far.
right?
At least let the reps work be done by AI.
Yeah,
For now.
for
right?
sure.
Like the way how we are seeing happening on the healthcare delivery side.
Yeah.
I think that's the second big area where I think I wanted to touch. The first was the Omnichannel, second is more the agentic AI. And the underlying theme is how AI is impacting that. Right? The third big area where I see pharma spending millions of dollars every year is the data subscriptions and the consultants who tell them what the data means. First, they subscribe to the data, they pay millions, then go to the same consultant. Oh, tell me what this data means for me. Can you create a report for me? Can you create this audience for me? Doesn't make any sense.
I think most of marketers have probably this issue or disease, data blindness. They do have so much data coming out of their programs, but they don't know how to make sense of that data, how to make it actionable insights which can be used further. So that's a big miss throughout for such a long time.
Things are changing at a rapid pace. Countries change, regulations change, tariffs change.
It's all historical data as well. That's the other issue. Some of it is 6 months old in some cases, right? You look at some, So some of our clients are using data that is 6 months old. World has changed dramatically now in 6 months. So how are you going to shift that model, right? And it's siloed.
I mean,
Because
even
they were told during the consulting project that these are the physicians who have the high likelihood of writing your script.
6 months ago.
Yeah, 6 months ago. That physician left the country,
Yeah.
Retire.
right? Retired, right? He is already tied so strongly to your competition, but you don't know. Your list remains the same. There is so much efficiency loss.
I think the other key thing with data is what data can be utilized, right? Like, especially when it comes to HIPAA compliance, there's so much data out there, but using the data in a way which is all compliant and meets all the regulatory requirements is going to be super key from a patient perspective. So it's with these AI agents, I think it's super important to keep that kind of constraints around that too, to ensure that yes, access data, but do it in a very compliant way that ultimately helps the patients.
But if you see, a lot of data is there in healthcare, right? Healthcare is the top 3 categories of the healthcare, where the healthcare data is generated, right? But the data which is used, sold, is primarily some claims data, some utilization data. But the real data of physician behavior data that is sitting inside the workflows, no one have access to it.
I mean, when we look at data as a whole and the data ecosystem, there's a lot of data out there, right? And there's fresh data, there is historical data that we all mentioned here. However, it's really cutting through that noise and how to actually use that data in a smart way, right? So AI comes in to be able to come in and make sense of that data in a way that's scalable. That's genius, right? Absolutely. I mean, it's possible for sure. And we've done that here, which is great.
But a marketer is paying $5 million for a subscription,
Yeah.
and you're changing that to $200 a month. Is that really possible?
It's possible. It is possible. And we live in a world where it's usage based, right? So just like ChatGPT, just like other environments that folks are using today, we want to unlock that.
I think there's a huge opportunity there. I think the problem we have is back to the show me that you've done it somewhere innovatively and then prove it with a case study mentality that Pharma has. So I think there is appetite from a slew of maybe smaller, mid-sized pharma companies who can't afford to pay the $3 million, $5 million license fees, and then the consultant fees on top of that could use this kind of capability very quickly from a market perspective.
And
right?
especially with a startup mindset when
Exactly.
you don't have those weeks and months
Exactly.
of briefing and then hoping
Yeah.
for an outcome.
Yeah. Or in some cases, you don't have the data because it's a new market you're going into. Where if you have an area where you could create cohorts of audiences based on data sets, much faster
I'm
to
getting
get them on the
interested,
market.
Julius. We have to do something now.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ramirez Patel startup. There you go. But it's a great, absolutely is a need in the market for that, for sure.
I think it will also give lot of power in marketers' hand because they no longer have to depend on other companies that license data, and they can start doing creative thinking around data, how to utilize those for actionable insights, really to make an impact to their brands. So it really empowers marketers to the level where they'll be able to make a difference.
Yeah, and then their investments are much more smarter, right? So they become more efficient, they become more effective, their campaigns start to perform better. All of this with the power of data at their fingertips, right? So building a real-time engine, building a living and breathing agent that works on your behalf based on all of the data sets that they couldn't even think about, let alone just the stuff that they're subscribing to, allowing them to do all of this is a powerful tool.
So saying, brands are not competing for recall these days, right? They're competing for relevance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all, right? So for all of the HCPs out there that folks are messaging, right? So as Kamya mentioned, it's like, I think that it's really important for us to realize, like, what are all of the inputs? How is this physician actually acting even before they take that action? What decisions have they made in the past? What actually kind of drives them to actually write this prescription or recommend this therapeutic treatment versus others? Knowing that ahead of time and being able to surface the right data to them to kind of make that next point and make that next decision is going to be critical. It's not about post. It's really about pre.
Here's what I think. AI and data combined with dynamic content generation is going to change the entire way the industry does HCP journeys. Because HCP journeys are based on, I prescribed this, I did this second line, I did third line, the patient reacted, then I did this, and then we should call them at these places, right? It's still very static. But this enables the marketer to dynamically generate multiple HCP journeys on the fly. I think that's going to be a big difference.
So if I have to make it easy for a pharmaceutical marketer, they're saying whenever any marketer is looking to do an omnichannel campaign, should look at intent, clinical intent. Are you using clinical intent in your marketing campaign? Right? Second is, are you inside the workflow? Not programmatically, right? But are you inside the workflow where a message can be delivered in real time natively, right? And third, most important is real time, right? Not, I will send you a refresh your audience list after a week and it can be done that. Right? And fourth is a connected ecosystem. Right? You can't expect a brand to move everything to work with a single platform. Right? It's not possible. The world is so big, physicians are so diverse. Right? The connected ecosystem is important. So these are probably 4 mantras of omnichannel marketing.
Interact, not interrupt.
Interact, not interrupt.
There
Yes.
you go. Or educate, not interrupt. Either one, right?
So let's talk about one stakeholder which we didn't talk about a lot. Workflows are important, but you said education, right? So how are physicians getting educated? Right? By the content, right? In those medical journals, medical education platforms, right? But no one is going to those platforms now. Right? Or maybe a better statement is less people are going to there, right? The visits on those platforms have reduced. How do you think they will survive or they will cope up with this AI era?
Yeah, it's a massive shift, right, for a lot of these medical journals, because you're right. Like providers are now going just to their chat GPTs of the world to get the content, and because of that, search used to drive a lot of traffic to these medical journals, and they're seeing a massive decline in terms of how much traffic goes through search.
So saying the GPTs are kind of hijacking or scraping all the content
Yep.
that these medical journals own, but that may not be right from a legal point of view.
And not giving
Why
them
are these
attribution.
medical journals not doing anything?
Yeah, I think half the time they don't even know that it's being scraped, right? Like there's no like proper content licensing that's happening there. They don't have the proper kind of like protection from walls and saying, okay, what content can be licensed, right? So I think it's really important for these medical journals to take control.
I've seen some lawsuits happening on the consumer content side, right? And content, I think, on the medical side is like so much more valued, right? And definitely, I think should be licensed in a proper way.
100%.
Why should publishers, I think, lose all the content to these GPTs who are becoming like billions and trillions of dollars?
Yeah, it's crazy. I
I
mean,
think it's
like,
time for publishers to protect the content now.
yep, 100%. I think that's why I think they need to think about how they can create their own ChatGPT versions, right? And kind of in that way, still they can provide a premium experience for the provider when they come to these medical journals, but at the same time, it's localized to their medical.
Yeah, make it
journals.
easy. Make it easy for a physician.
Yeah.
From information to intelligence on those sites,
100%.
right? Using their AI agents or the chat GPTs.
100%.
I think most probably know now that it's an issue, but like you said, how do they fix that issue, right? If it's a problem, but they have 10 other things they're focused on, if there's not a solution that'll help fix it, then that kind of gets, another thing that just slips through the cracks.
Correct. And I see if they kind of lose more time, they will lose it. Right? I see some of the big players have already lost 60-70% of their web traffic, and it is impacting the business like big time.
Yeah, I'm sure publishers are looking for ways to control the environments better, right? And how they can get a hold of all of these rogue things that are happening with their content, right? So building that technology and having that to enable and empower the publishers to have the control back in.
It's gold.
Particularly medical publishers who the number one thing is their content.
Exactly.
Right? It's where
Yeah.
they invest the time they spent. They take it from, on page to the internet. There's a lot more you can do with it, but I think it's still, like a lot of things, it's how do you do it and who can help you do it.
I think another interesting thing that's coming to my mind is probably these digital KOLs. Because all of this content is actually getting used by without consent or used by these chat GPTs, how does that impact KOLs? Because those were the KOLs who used to contribute to the content. Now, if their content is being used by chat GPTs of the world, what will be the future of those KOLs, which pharma marketer really wanted to reach throughout?
And relying on,
Yeah.
The brand themselves can't get access to that content, but a search engine or chat engine can get access to that same content.
Yeah, I remember when I was a physician again, long ago, used to use a tool called uptodate.com. My hospital used to subscribe to that tool and used to depend a lot on that, like, to ask queries in real time. It had inbuilt connectors within EHRs. And when I meet physicians, like these days also, it is still one of the most popular tools. But they have been impacted big time by AI because that tool hasn't evolved as much. It still is present at the right moment. But it is so important for that knowledge and intelligence to become even more intelligent, right? For a physician to use it when he needs it. So let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'll start. I'd say my closing sentence is AI is nothing without the quality of data.
I think overall it is really around education and engagement as opposed to interrupting. And I think that's where there's going to be more success. Those who are loud are not going to get heard as much anymore.
I think just talking about intuition-based decisions by marketers is no longer attractive. They need to have evidence-based backed planning and execution. That should be like table stakes now.
Pharma conversations will move away from promotion to more precision.
I think not losing focus of the patient and the patient outcomes is the key in any kind of healthcare marketing, and we can't lose sight of that.
I think one of the things I would focus on is to ask questions. And dig deeper. Might not get the answers you want from those questions, but I think that's the key, is to really look past kind of buzzwords and dig deeper.
And I got one more idea that we should do another round. In what are the business ideas that we discussed today? And I think without fear, let's share with our competition.
What's coming soon?
Yeah, what's coming soon? In next few months or weeks or days?